Episode 75, Truth Over Consistency. Hi, I'm Jessica Ann, and welcome to this solo episode. I'm sipping a warm cacao latte in my favorite mug. I just lit a candle as I listen to the rain coming down outside. I'm thrilled to be joining you in the year 2023 on this cosmic journey. We're seeking so much more self-awareness and deeper meaning of society and culture through creativity, consciousness, and self-reflection. And if I sound a little bit different, it's because I'm recording this not through my usual fancy technology, but through a simple lavalier mic through my iPhone. I just wanted to make this experience as cozy and simple as possible. So it may sound a little bit different, but the content will still be coming to you from my heart. As much as I love inviting guests on my podcasts, this is a solo episode, and we will see more guests in the next season, including some of my mentors who are currently inspiring me. One of the things I love about hosting a podcast is that I have a cadence with my guests that have allowed me to get out of hermit mode, which is usual and typical for me, and into my body through podcasting. And in this episode, I want to share how I've been able to create a lot of abundance in my life and prosperity in my life while staying aligned with my soul. And I just want to say thank you, a sincere, heartfelt thank you to all of my listeners. This is episode 75, and I've recently learned that my podcast is in the top 30% of all podcasts shared on Spotify. So you might be wondering, what is the secret to success or to my success? Because everyone accesses success in different ways. For me, I do not speak unless I feel what I want to say. My commitment is to truth, not to consistency. And on the surface, it may look easy and it may look like I publish whenever I feel like it. And yes, you're exactly right. It is a feeling, an intuitive guidance where I'm directed to stay silent and not published consistently. In silence, we are holding our fire, and then that fire builds. To hold the fire, we must have a pure and flexible mind so that we don't fall into mental habits, which can turn truth into errors. I love talking solo to you and from my mic. And I can only do this when I have sacral energy building up around a process, around an idea, around my thoughts. I need to feel it building up in my sacral. My body's energetic intelligence is really designed in a way that advises me what's healthy or unhealthy in the present moment. And I realize that this isn't how energy works for everyone. So it's important to understand when I'm making decisions through my body guidance and not from my mind. And after meditating on today's topic, I got a clear yes that I desire to share with you the last 10 years of my business, the ups and downs and everything in between. This aligns with my commitment to truth over consistency. And I think I might do this in two parts. So this will be part one of a two-part, possibly three-part episode where I'm guiding you through the last 10 years of my business. So let's start in 2012. 10 years ago, or actually just over 10 years ago, I went through a dark night of the soul. I was just absolutely done with living in Washington, D.C. I had all of my dream jobs at this time, and I no longer wanted to live there. I got my master's degree at Johns Hopkins in communications, and I worked in the belly of the beast, news and politics, and it really took its toll on me. I saw how the sausage was cooked, and I no longer wanted to be a part of the problem. I wanted to be a part of the solution. It just took me a while to figure that out. But, seeing how the sausage was cooked, I saw that, a lot of the media today is part of something called the Hegelian dialect. It's problem plus reaction equals solution. And the Hegelian dialect, in the most simple words, means controlling both sides of an argument to attain your desired goals. This is part of the reason why I'm so passionate about why we need to adopt a more holistic, meta-modern worldview, and why I interview people and love having conversations around Game B and metamodernism. I interviewed Hansi Frenite in episode 67 about metamodernism, and I also talked with Jim Rutt about Game B in episode 54. If you don't like the culture, be brave enough to create your own. So once I peeled back the layers, I'm someone who likes to understand the nature of reality, and I'm always seeking truth. Life becomes very interesting, and it's this truth seeking that takes me into some pretty dark places. It's easy to fall into depression or apathy when you see through the BS of corporate media, politics, and pretty much everything. Life was no longer the same for me. So that was my first spiritual awakening back in 2012, 10 years ago. And I felt the energy of DC complete, and I knew I didn't want to work for anyone anymore, but I didn't know where to go next. So I moved back to my hometown of New Jersey, and I remember being so inspired by the big bloggers at the time, people who told me that I could work from anywhere in the world, amazing, talented writers like James Altucher, who I've also interviewed on my podcast. So I absorbed all of their information, and then I launched my LLC having zero business experience at the time. This was also around the time that I launched my blog, when blogging was huge. And then something powerful happened. I started to realize that the content I was creating was slowly building my business. I wasn't even focused on making money at the time. I was simply focused on being in alignment. And it was around this time that I joined a website called Fiverr, and I started telling people that I was a writer. Coincidentally, one of my first gigs on Fiverr was to bring the concept of Bitcoin into the mainstream consciousness. And this was before Bitcoin was even called Bitcoin. One of the founders of Bitcoin found me on Fiverr, and the company at the time was called Beyond the Banks. So I helped to write the very first Bitcoin video script at the time. It was the first startup currency that was never done before, and I collaborated with people all over the world. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I didn't get paid in Bitcoin, but I did get paid over the internet. Even if it was only $5, it was enough for me to continue following through on my dream of running a virtual business. Even though back then, I was really into exploring yoga, and I became a yoga teacher. I got certified in 2015. I didn't truly understand the manifestation techniques. I was simply using the magic of blogging and spirituality and social media to put myself out there when I felt that intuitive nudge. Doing this allowed me to build a really powerful blog when blogging was really big at the time. And I also got featured on high-profile websites like the Huffington Post, back when HuffPost was a really big thing. Blogging and posting on social media gave me a voice when I felt isolated. It's grown my confidence, and it's connected me with amazing humans all over the globe. It's shown me that magic can happen when you show up as your true and sometimes messy, glorious self. From day one, I really only wanted to run a business that aligns with my lifestyle, that helps people and creates an impact, and it also allows me to have time freedom. And I got here when I didn't try to be someone else. I just showed up every day, being the best version of myself. And that's what prosperity is. It's truly about doing what you want, when you want, and with whom you want. And now, as a marketing and coaching industry veteran here 10 years later, I'm still super passionate about passing on my experience by mentoring change makers, creatives, and aspiring coaches to help them get out of their own way to bring their gifts into the world. And I was not making much money in the early years, but I really wanted a life of freedom. So the thing that I would do was book spontaneous flights and go on trips where I felt called. One of these trips was to Austin for South by Southwest. And I remember needing to book the cheapest flight. So I flew into San Antonio, rented a car, and drove to Austin, stayed in a really cheap Airbnb, all so that I could meet some interesting people and connect with other business owners. I also flew to Vegas for CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. It was at these in-person events where I started to build my in-person community of other tech and marketing entrepreneurs. One of my first clients came to me through South by Southwest, and his name is Jimmy. He needed help with marketing his app. And I helped his app go from an audience of 0 to 20,000 people in only 4 months. I also met a really early client at the airport at Dallas Fort Worth. And we started talking as we were waiting to board our plane about our companies. And, we just intuitively were guided to each other. And he told me that his tech company was looking for a writer for their blog. He introduced me to his sister companies, which ended up being pretty big retainers during the early years of my business. I'm sharing this because these early successes and synchronicities really gave me the confidence to continue showing up in my business, deciding to invest and believe in myself in so many ways on a financial and a commitment and life level was the best thing I could have ever done. I learned manifestation techniques and how everything that was showing up in my life was matching my internal state, my deep desires on a subconscious level. We are always attracting what we are. But what I can know is that when your body and soul knows, it really just knows. And you don't need to know how it knows. You just have to trust and know that everything that happens as a result is meant for your greater awakening. And, I don't use that term too much because it's overused. I think that we don't really need more awakening. We're already pretty awake. But if you're going through a challenging time, just know that it's meant for the highest good for you and for humanity. So even though at the time I was running a successful business, this was in my early years still, I'm talking about maybe the first, 5 years of launching my business, I was taking a ton of time for self-study, for introspection, reading and contemplation. I started to apply everything I was finding, and I learned that being in the moment was especially powerful for me. I'm so grateful that my clients regularly invite me and they eat up my wisdom. And, I use the word invitation because I am a projector in human design, and that is my strategy, is to wait for the invitation. And in the early years, this wasn't the case. In the early years, I didn't necessarily know I was a projector in human design. So I would hustle and work against my natural energetic design. Today, I am more at ease and in flow, and I simply put myself out there and then I wait for the invitation. So in 2015, I launched my podcast, which I didn't know it at the time, but it was in super alignment for me. I have an open throat chakra and I'm designed to speak spontaneously. It's part of who I am. And I've accepted this over the years by hosting my podcast by seasons, instead of falling into the 24/7 news cycle, which programs us to speak and put out an endless churn of content without building our internal fire. I really go deep inwards, and I only speak when I have something to say or share. Just like with this episode right now, there was an internal kindling, which it's really stoking my fire to speak to you right now. My podcast has been an incredible tool to break all of the rules of business and marketing. It has worked in the past, and it continues to work for me. And this is why I'm so passionate about helping others to start their podcast. I am so lit up to help others live authentically through their voice and to light up their throat chakras so that they can speak with authenticity into the cosmos. Today, as I'm looking out at my 4 fruit trees in my beach bungalow, I truly have a life that I love. I go surfing, I run on the beach daily, I have time for meditation, yoga, reading, and self-care. This is abundance for me. And the way that I got here is super unconventional. And I'm just grateful every day that I have freedom and a platform, and I can simply show up as myself. There are some days where I do fall into the trap of hustling or overthinking or thinking I should be or do more. But then I remember that all of the gurus, including Buddha, they weren't trying to make an impact. The Buddha, he was simply showing up. And by showing up, he made a global impact. He wasn't worried about being creative. He merely showed up as who he is. So if you're listening to this, this is permission to continue being you. You don't need to make an impact or have huge goals, but you do need to be who you are, and that will take care of everything. So now here we are at the start of 2023, and I don't live by the Gregorian calendar. The New Year's isn't actually on January 1st anyway. I never really found myself in sync with this cycle. Instead, I celebrated on the Lunar New Year, which is on January 22nd. Staying with the cycles of Earth allows for way more energy to flow through you, which means more alignment, prosperity, and fun. So I've been pretty quiet on social media, but doing better than ever in my business. Bringing in high-ticket clients, meaningful work, working on my nervous system, being in alignment. And, someone recently asked me, how do I get more customers by posting less content? And my answer is, you create art, poetry, magic. This is conscious marketing. This is how you feel alive. When you breathe in these conscious codes into your business, you get a business that's aligned with your humanity. You get customers that value you and your time and will pay top dollar for your guidance. A podcast or a post from 3 years ago can deliver more impact when it's found by the right customer today. When you create content that's a pure transmission from your soul, straight from the source, you access the quantum world. And there's no right way to create what I created. I work with 6- and 7-figure CEOs at all levels, and how I mentor is making sure that you're aligned with your essence and you do it in your way so that you can access your highest creativity and your highest consciousness. I'm so proud and excited to share the way that I've created my business and how I've maintained my femininity and play and joy while scaling my business over the years. I'd love to meet you where you're at, and I'd be honored to work with you if your intuition says it's a fit. So shoot me an email. I'm at hello@jessicaannmedia.com, or you can find me on Instagram at beingishuman. You can also work with me through my podcast program where I guide you to start and scale your podcast the quantum way. You can also hire me for a Gene Keys reading or a one-on-one mentorship where I empower you to live your truth through authenticity. So we focus on giving you tools and resources so that you can take your business to the next level. So back to 2016, which was a huge year for me. Actually, I'm going to talk about the next 5 years of my business in part 2 of this podcast, and I will publish this in the coming week or so, but I think I want to break it up into 2 parts because this is a lot of information, and I want to make sure that I am staying in integrity with my vision and my energy, and I feel like my energy is starting to fizzle at the moment, so I want to make sure that I give you my best. And I will be back next week, and I will also be back for further episodes with really exciting guests who are inspiring me. So please stay tuned and reach out on social media or shoot me an email if you are feeling lit up and inspired after hearing this transmission. I hope you have a magical rest of your day.